Hello everyone, welcome to a new chess video. Welcome to a spectacular video playing with the black pieces. I'm going to show you how to win against this move right here, e4 with the Caro-Kann defense. But you might say, wait a minute, chess searcher, the Caro-Kann defense is a very passive, very boring defense. Careful, that's because you haven't studied Chester's Caro-Kann defense, a variation that poses a ton of problems for your opponent. A ton, really, and I'm sure it's going to help you win a lot of games. The Caro-Kann defense, as you know, when they play this pawn here, you simply move the bishop's pawn forward one step. The most common thing is that they'll respond with these two pawns, taking the center since we're not doing it, and now we reply with d5. And here we have the Caro-Kann defense. There are some well-known lines here, but the line I'm going to show you today is sure to blow your mind. First of all, I hope this video looks good today, because I don't have a tripod, and I have the camera on top of a stool, which is inside a box, on top of another box, and held up with a shampoo bottle and a book. In other words, today I really truly had every possible reason not to record a video for all of you. But I've actually spent well over an hour just trying to find the perfect way to show you the board. So I sincerely hope you really appreciate it and give me a big like, please, before I end up buying yet another tripod. Alright, so in the Caro-Kann defense, notice that there are two main variations here, okay? The main one of all is for them to advance this pawn, right? Because notice that what we're doing is creating a threat of pawn takes pawn. This threat is obvious, right? So they either have to advance or exchange, which isn't a good idea for white pieces. Why? I'll explain it to you quickly. Because they're trading a central pawn for a side pawn. So if they exchange, we would simply take here, and white has lost the central pawn for one of our side pawns. So the two good options are either to advance, which is the most common, or to defend this pawn with the knight, which I'll also explain how to play. But let's see what happens when they advance the pawn, which is what most people do against the Caro-Kann. This is obvious. Here, the main move is to place the bishop on f5 and keep playing, right? But I'm going to show you a way to put a lot of pressure. And this way is c5 pushing this pawn again. Alright, chess mature, come on, don't give me a load of nonsense. You're telling me that in this strong and aggressive variation, you play the same pawn twice. It looks like we've ended up in the French defense, right? When white plays here and we play here, it seems like we're in the French defense, but on top of that, we've lost the tempo, so be careful. This is going to turn into an improved version of the French defense. Even if you don't believe it, you'll see it in a moment. You're going to be amazed, seriously. So what are we doing now? We're putting pressure on the d4 square, right? By far, the most commonly played move here is c3. If they play knight to f3 or any other move, we're going to keep doing the same thing. But anyway, c3 is the most popular move. Notice that white says, well, now if they play e6, we're in a French defense, but I have an extra tempo. But what's the main difference and the main improvement compared to the French defense? This bishop right here. This bishop is entrapped behind the pawn chain. Everyone knows it, but if you don't, I'm telling you now. In the French defense, this bishop is a burden. It's a terrible piece. However, now with this Caro-Kann that resembles an improved French defense, this bishop is going to come to life. Mainly, what do we need to do? Focus on attacking this d4 square, just like in the French. First with the pawn and now with the knight. Notice that if you really understand the concepts in this video, you'll be able to win most of your games with the black pieces. Very well, now we're putting on the pressure. We're attacking this d4 square with two pieces, right? The pawn and the knight. What's the most common response from white here? Obviously, knight to f3. And so we were waiting for white to play knight to f3 so we could develop this bishop with spectacular aggression. If they had done it earlier, we won't have two. You get what I mean, right? Alright, so what are we doing now? Besides pinning this knight, we're also taking away this knight's defense of the d4 square. The key point we're going to be attacking to win the game, remember, is the d4 square. Here, the most logical thing is for white to develop the bishop to a2, precisely to reactivate the defense of this knight. Notice that now this knight can't move, because it's pinned. With a bishop on e2, they wouldn't have any problem at all. Alright, so how should we continue? Well now, notice that we already have the bishop out of the pawn chain, so we can play e6. Everything is so simple that it seems like just watching this video once you'll remember everything. But you can watch it as many times as you need, each at your own pace, alright? Very well. We're attacking this point, we're attacking this knight. This knight is defended. How should white continue? Here, really the most normal move is castling, but it doesn't matter to us what they do because we're going to have a very simple plan. Develop this knight over here. With what idea? With the idea of maybe developing it to f5 to bring in another piece to attack this point. Notice that we already have 1 and 2 pieces. We want to bring in a third, and we could even bring the queen to b6 to also attack b4. As you already know, in the French defense, the queen is usually developed quickly via b6. In this variation, we're going to take a little longer. We're going to delay bringing out the queen a bit, okay? Now, white might realize that our goal is to target b4, right? It's normal, and they can develop their bishop while defending this point. In fact, it's the most commonly played move in this position. But we don't care about that. In fact, it even helps us. Why? Because when we jump with the knight to f5, we're not only attacking this pawn, but we're also attacking this bishop here. Very good. Serious question, which would you prefer? To capture this bishop or to capture this pawn? Without a doubt, it's better to capture this pawn. Even though we want to win the bishop pair, and we know how important that always is. In this case, this point here will always be our main objective. In fact, notice that here, if the white pieces move this bishop, they'd probably lose a pawn, because we play bishop takes knight, bishop takes. And now we'd have too many pieces targeting this d4 square, and we'd end up winning a pawn. Here, the most commonly played move is h3. You might ask, why h3? Well, obviously, it's to try to get this bishop to leave and not exchange for this knight. So remember, whenever they play h3 against you, we want to exchange this bishop for a knight, which usually, that's something you shouldn't do, okay, in this type of position. However, in this opening, it's essential. Why? Because we're getting rid of the knight on f3, which directly defends this point. And now, it's time to once again take our majestic queen out for a stroll. How? With queen to b6. This is the key move. Notice that here we already have a very comfortable game, and only problems are coming for white. What have we done? We've put a lot of pressure on this point. This Caro-Kann defense with this bishop variation here is spectacular. Take a good look. Now we're attacking the bishop here, and we're also attacking the pawn with several different pieces. And in addition, we're attacking this b2 square as well. Sorry, obviously, white would much rather lose this side pawn and the backward pawn over here than lose the central pawn that actually defends the whole position. That's why here they realize something. First, how many pieces are attacking this pawn? 1, 2, 3, and 4. How many are defending it? 1, 2, 3. Careful, they're about to lose a pawn. With which piece can they defend it? With none. Do you see it? With none. That's why here they'll say, well, if I can't defend it in any way, at least I'll exchange pawns and we'll trade pawns. However, here, how are we going to react? Well, here the correct answer is queen takes pawn. Queen takes on bt, right? At the moment, we don't have any extra pawns. Why? They've captured this one, and we've captured this one, right? Very good. Now, look closely. We're attacking the rook, and the only way to defend is to move the knight. Do you see it? To defend it with the queen. And now it's time to take this bishop here. We take this bishop, we make a fork, so it's obvious they have to capture, and look at this. Look at how bad this pawn structure is, the square structure. What is this? Terrible. We're even attacking here. We're attacking here. I recommend capturing this one first. And you might ask, why, chess teacher? Because now what I'm doing is increasing the pressure on the other pawns. I'm attacking this pawn here, and this pawn here with 2 pieces. So I have an extra pawn, and on top of that, I'm attacking 3 pawns at once. They have to defend one of them. Logically, they're gonna defend this one. Why? Because we capture with check and then we take another one. They can defend it however they want. It doesn't matter to us, because then we'll come in and capture with the bishop and again attack this pawn with 2 pieces. And we also attack this one with 2 more pieces, the knight and the queen. In other words, look, I'm going to give you a quick summary so you understand it perfectly. In this opening, what we want is to destroy the d4 square. You see how we've made all these moves just to capture this pawn on d4? Once we manage that, all the opponent's options disappear, because look, their position just falls apart. Remember well, instead of playing traditional lines, we push the pawn again and play c5, putting pressure on this point here. And we saw that c3 seemed like a very normal line for white, but it actually ended up being losing. Why is that? Because we put too much pressure on this pawn here, thanks to the fact that this bishop was left outside the pawn chain. It's true that if they play this knight, we could come straight in, but what happens then, chess teacher? If here we give up the pawn and they capture it, at first glance, it might seem like a bad move for white. However, be careful, because if we don't know how to punish it, we're not going to win the game. Instead, we'll just be a pawn down. Many of you might say, well, we play e6, attack it with the bishop, but then this bishop would end up trapped again behind the pawn structure, and this opening would not be successful. So pay attention because it's very simple, and I'm going to explain it so that everyone can understand it perfectly. All we're going to do is start attacking this d5 square. Why? Because it's no longer defended by the d4 pawn. Don't worry about this pawn. You'll always get it back. It's very simple. They'll never be able to defend it. So we're going to put pressure on this square right here. We attack the pawn, they have to defend it, and what happens then? They've developed this net. So we bring this bishop out beyond the pawn chain. We pin the knight with bishop to g4. Obviously, we're in a similar position where if they still want to defend this square, notice that if they just ignore everything, we would capture here, putting massive pressure on this knight that's pinned. So they absolutely have to try to keep this knight defending this square. And now, since we've already brought the bishop out beyond the pawn chain, I'm laughing because it's just so easy. We play e6. I think this opening is spectacular. Now, by playing e6, what are we doing? We strengthen the center, we attack the c5 pawn, and also, watch out, we're also attacking this e5 pawn. How can we capture this pawn? Well, it's really simple. We would just have to play bishop takes knight, bishop takes bishop, and then there would be no defender left for this square, and this knight would be the one to capture it, alright? So we're threatening these 2 points. Alright, you already understand that they're going to lose this point, right? Why? Because they simply captured here and we would recapture. But they want to keep defending this one because it's the e5 pawn. It's a very important pawn. Imagine if white loses this pawn. They'd be in pretty bad shape, right? Alright, white could be. Sorry, now it's our move, okay? We're here right now, and as you can see, they've successfully defended this point with the bishop. Alright, it's very simple how we're going to continue here, okay? The simplest thing is to try to capture this pawn here, right? Okay, sorry about that. I got a little mixed up. I'm back on track now. First, we capture this pawn here, right? And white can do whatever they want. Alright, how could we capture this pawn? Well, we could do it in several ways. We could put pressure on it with queen to c7, with knight to e7, and then try to attack it from here with both knights. But there's a direct way to win the e5 pawn, and that's bishop takes knight, bishop takes bishop, and then just put pressure here. Bishop to d4 attacks both the b2 and e5 squares, and we're going to end up capturing both pawns. Right now, we're even in the material. Our pawn structure is much better, and we're attacking this pawn, which we're definitely going to capture, and this one, which we're also definitely going to capture. If they try, ideally, which one do we want to capture? This one. Alright? If they try this move to protect, perfect, we capture here instead. But what happens if they try to defend this one? Well, we'll always have moves like queen to c7, knight to e7, or knight to g6 available to put on the pressure. But it's true that they have to be really careful, because if they only defend over here now, bishop takes on b2 would also win the wreck. So they're in a really tough and challenging spot right now, where we've managed to capture this pawn way too easily, almost without any real effort, and as a result, we'll end up with both a significant material and positional advantage in this situation. Watch out, friends! There are a couple of traps that white can set for you when you play this variation, and I feel obligated to show them to you, especially so you don't fall for them, since they're very popular. Be careful! Here, when we play c5 and they take this pawn, we'll play knight to c6, pressuring this point, and if they defend it, we'll attack this knight. All pretty all, right? Why did they play bishop to b2? Well, because white sees the threat of knight takes e5, right? Is everyone following me? But here, there's a trap, which is to make a neutral move, letting us take with knight on e5, and it looks like we're completely winning here. We capture the central pawn, we put pressure on this point, but here, you're going to be amazed by the trap white has. You must not fall for it, okay? They simply capture this knight, giving up their queen. You see it? And what happens when we capture the queen? Why is this a trap? Because they have this check right here. Bishop to b5 check, where the king can't go anywhere. We have to give up the queen. And not only that, but when we give up this bishop, it's defended by the knight. And notice that now they'll get the bishop back. And if we count, they have 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces in exchange for 2, so they'd be up by 2 pieces. So when they capture and you play knight to c6, knight to f3, and pin here, and they play c3 trying to set the little trap of taking here, you shouldn't take. You should play e6. Why e6? Because you're following opening plans. Develop this bishop, develop this knight attacking this point, and now attack this point here. However, they can defend this point with bishop to e3, and now it looks like they've left this pawn here hanging again. And many of you might think, okay, perfect. Now I can take here because later when they give me this check, I won't have to give up my queen, right? Because I'll be able to escape with the king and I'll have a queen at. And so here you fall into the trap again. Careful. Beep. I do this. Why? Because that's what you need to think in your head. Whenever they play c3, alarms should go off. You can't take this pawn here. Why? Because this is the other trap they can set for you right now. Just look. Why can't this knight take here? Because the queen is pinned, right? But they simply have the move queen to 5. Oh, sorry, queen to 4 check, getting out of the pin. And now we'll have to block the check, and then they're going to capture our knight. And many of you might say, well, I'll just move the knight back to defend against this check. But then you'll lose the bishop. So be careful, please. Let all the alarms go off when they play the move c3. And a lot of people here think that after this very dangerous check, they can play queen to d7 and everything will be fine. Now, I want all of you to do an exercise in the comments to see if you know how to continue here with the white pieces, and whether it's a good idea to block with the queen or not. I'm going to be reading all your comments. I love that it's not just me working. I want all of us to work together. That way we're going to improve so much more. Come on, I want to see all of you in the comments, if you've made it this far, commenting on what happens if we play queen to d7. So pay attention, because to wrap up the video, I'm going to show you how to play perfectly whenever someone tries this trap on you. Remember, when they take here, knight to c6 attacking this point. They defend it. We bring the bishop to pin, okay? And then they set up the little c3 trap, all right? What were we supposed to do? e6. Above all, with the first trap you don't capture here, you play e6. And when they set up the second one, you don't capture here either, all right? Because then the queen will come to check. So what should you do? Relax. The move a6 is the lifesaver for everything. Because now, yes, we're bringing back the threat. Why? Because this bishop can no longer check, and this queen can't come over here because we'd have b5. So a6 is the life-saving move. Now, yes, we renew the threat of knight taking pawn. They have to defend it, and the most logical way is to defend it with the bishop. They can't come over here because then we capture this one. They have to keep defending both points at the same time. Do we want to play knight takes bishop? Nah, we don't want to play knight takes bishop. Careful, we want to keep up the pressure, and we're going to make a key move. What's the key move, Chessinger? d6. And here, all your problems are going to end. This move is wonderful again, both a6 and b6. What does b6 do? Well, it puts too much pressure on this point. Now we're threatening pawn takes pawn. This bishop would have to fall back. These two central pawns are absolutely insane. However, a lot of you are telling me, look, Chestish, this pawn can be captured and is free, because now the queen can't take it since the bishop is covering it, right? But here, after b6, we have some forced moves that will lead us to a winning line. And it's very simple. You just have to remember the following. Knight takes bishop, removing the defender. They can't take back with the knight. They have to take with the pawn. If they take with the queen, it would actually be even worse for them. Notice that we could even play bishop takes knight, opening up these pawns. The structure would be Caro. They have to take with the pawn. And once they take, what are we going to do now? Well, the move seems obvious. Queen takes on b6, and we're putting on massive pressure. Where are we applying pressure? Well, we're putting pressure on 2 points at the same time. We're putting pressure here. And here? But what's going on? This point is now pretty well defended. So what I would do first is trade this bishop for the knight. And now, yes, queen takes pawn. Do you see the difference? Now we're putting on much better pressure because both are undefended. And now notice that there's no way to defend them. This one is going to fall, this one is going to fall, and when this one falls, d5 will fall too, and the whole position will collapse. Notice that this is untouched, and we can castle without any problem. And if they try queen to c3 to defend both pawns at once, we simply pin the queen and would win it. So there's no way to defend them. And now, to wrap up, in 30 seconds, I'll show you what to do if, when we play this defense, they go knight to c3, which I told you I'd explain, but it's so simple that it can be covered in 30 seconds, right? We've seen that the usual move here was to go forward, but this knight move was also possible. What are we simply going to do? Exchange, and now knight to f6? Exchanging the knights again, we're threatening to capture, so naturally they capture to double the pawns. We take back with this one, and in the next moves, we're going to do the following. Bishop to d6, and castle, and that's it. Whatever they do, look closely. Bishop to d6, castle, and our position is going to be super easy to play. No matter what they do, what will we do? We'll bring the bishop over here, and now, I don't know, for example, if they develop their bishop, it doesn't matter to us. We'll play knight to d7. We can connect the rooks in the center, rook to e8, bring out the queen either here, or honestly, I prefer bringing her out along this diagonal. The other rook comes in, and it's going to be a totally normal standard game. You're not going to have any problems at all. It's hard for white to create any issues if they play knight to c3. So here you have the video on the aggressive Caro-Kann, which I love. I had to pull off some spectacular moves to record it. I hope you leave me a nice like. I really appreciate it. Share it with your friends, and I'll see you tomorrow in the next video, friends. Goodbye.